In part one with Marc and Claire.
That kind of circles back to the writing thing. Hubbard also wrote this series called Mission Earth, which is after Battlefield Earth. And in Mission Earth, he has all these little kind of subplots and all these little lessons that you learn. And throughout the entire series, I think it's 10. Is it 10?
10
I think
volumes.
it's 10 volumes.
10 volumes.
I mean, it could take you a year to read these things. It's
I
a
read
lot.
them all.
Yeah. But one common thread throughout the entire series, all 10 books, is you always need leverage. You've always got to have leverage. And so that's in Scientology. Every part, any which way, they've always got leverage. When you do these counselings, you give up all these dirty, dark secrets. And so when you leave, it's like, well, I'd keep my mouth shut if I were you, because of all those dirty, dark secrets we got. And so that's the only reason that Claire and I are sort of a little more immune to these guys. We grew up there. We didn't do anything. We were like, what did you do back in 85? I was like, I was working for you in 85, like I've been with you the whole time. I didn't knock over any liquor stores, or we were working for you. What are you going to dig up on us?
Yeah. Even when they post these hate videos with my mom or my brother, or, people who worked with me saying how, oh, she's a mean, evil person. I'm like, well, I was born into it. And
you created me.
Control over every aspect of my life from when I was 4 years old.
Yeah.
So if that's your view, might want to go reevaluate things.
Yeah. The whole, this is why I wanted to do this a little different, because the story itself is so unbelievable. You couldn't make this stuff up. Do you know what I mean? Like, you couldn't find it in fiction.
Totally.
And all the irony about this, it's all being, created by a science fiction writer, and here you're writing about it. And but there's so many valuable takeaways from that. Someone who is wanting to write a memoir or a fiction of any sort, because what you said something really profound that, and I've lost the quote now. I had it written down here, but
I was on a podcast with a guy down in Texas called Patrick Bet David.
Yeah.
And I think it's called Valuetainment or something. He has a YouTube channel, and he does real estate, and he does all sorts of things. He's a successful entrepreneur. And one thing that he said was that if you want to tell your story, then just tell your story. If you're gonna if you want to write a book, write a book. If you want to have a YouTube channel, write a YouTube channel, and it's going to be a document and like a legacy of what you did and where you stood and which side of the fight were you on. And if you want your children or your grandchildren or whatever to know what that was, well, then leave a record of it. And then that way they can find out. So that my book is sort of like, this is what happened. This is how I grew up. This is how I got to this place. And this is how I escaped. And if it could be a cautionary tale to anyone in any circumstance, it doesn't have to be Scientology, but I also wanted Scientologists to know, like, this is what happens. This is what's going on behind the scenes. There is a curtain. This is what's going on behind the curtain. And I would feel, if I was one of them and I was given all this money and I was trying to get my friends and family in it, and someone who knew what was going on for real, and then they escaped and they didn't tell me, like, dude, you could have said something. And that was the thing for me, was when I left, there had been hundreds of people that had left before me. And Scientology is like, if you write a book, we're going to sue you. We're going to do this. So none of them ever did it. And I was like, but what if you do it and they don't sue you? What then? What? And so, of course, in 2005, there weren't any books by ex-members out. And now I want to say there's probably 20 different books you can go and buy from members that were there. And the stories are almost all the same. They were working at this place or that place, and all the same kinds of nonsense were going on. But if I can write it, and I don't have a GED, I can't put in the I just leave the education part blank on my resume, because I'm like, yeah, don't have that.
Very
I
well
don't have none
versed
of
in the
those.
School of Hard Knocks here at the Headley house.
I grew up
But
on the streets.
but the fact that this is why I wanted you guys on, because it's so inspirational. The fact that you had no prior like a formal writing career, and you had no formal publishing or producing, let's say, career, Claire, but you had the resources. You knew how to find the resources to get it done, and you had the fire to get it done. And
Yeah.
I think that's what's so inspirational, is that up against all these huge odds where you could be sued, you could be, I don't know if they'd actually like do any physical harm, but try to interfere with your business, try to interfere with outside relationships, despite all of that. And because for a lot of people who want to write, and they develop, like they think, okay, I want a writing career, one of the biggest roadblocks is the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And they let that, and I'm including myself here 100%, and they let that stop them, right? But here you guys are, you're like, yeah, okay, I'm getting a good response on the internet, people want to hear my story, let's just go, let's just do it, we're doing it. And
Yeah.
if people don't watch this, and like writers who are on the fence, like, oh, why should I tell a story, what credibility do I have? Look at you guys, you achieved it. And you said that you've sold about 45,000, you estimated, copies by
Yeah.
now?
But between so the book came out in November of 2009, and that was hardbacks. Then we printed some paperbacks, and then it came out on Kindle. And then I want to say during the pandemic, I was like, well, I might as well do an audiobook. I just had never really got around to it. So I was the narrator for the audio book for Audible. And I think between all of those, we've sold around, I haven't done the tally for the sales for 2022 yet, but I think we're up around 40 to 45,000 copies
Over that span of
from everything from the beginning to current. So I mean, that's great because there's no we're the publisher, so we created a publishing company, and we bought a whole stack of ISBNs.
That, we created the publishing company intentionally in a format so that if we were ever sued, they would not be able to get the rights to the book.
Right.
And also, we did
we
had
to
wills
legally
and created a family trust and all of that, because obviously at the time our children were 3 and 1. You know, I'm the risk assessor component. Mark's the storyteller. I'm like, well, yes, you can write a book if that's what you need to do. I respect that, therapeutically and otherwise. People want to hear this story, and they should hear the story, but let's also do it right.
Right, to protect yourselves, because it's not like you're like going up against somebody who doesn't, or something, an entity who doesn't have immense wealth and can use it if they really wanted to. So
that's right.
So it's just, but the other thing that I wanted to go back to is the writing as a therapeutic tool, because you probably already know this, but the things that you experience, the insomnia from not wanting to have the dreams, that's all post-traumatic stress disorder. That's all 100%.
And when I wrote the book, I stopped having the
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, when I wrote the book, I stopped having the nightmares.
Yeah.
And the funny thing was, for a long time, I didn't have them. And then if I went on a podcast, or I met up with some people that I used to work with, and we started talking about it and, telling stories, then I would have another nightmare. And I realized, it's only whenever that sort of gets active, that's when it kind of rears its head. And I thought, that's really weird. But after I wrote the book, they pretty much stopped. And I think maybe I've had like, 1 or 2 in the last 6 months or something like that. But it literally used to be a nightly thing where it's just like, oh gosh, and you wake up and oh my God, they had the kids. I had a nightmare that they had our kids, and you're just like, oh, this is insane.
The funniest part about that too is that for a long time, Mark and I didn't realize we were both having nightmares.
Oh, no way.
And
I wasn't like waking up and like telling everybody about.
No,
I
and
was
when
just like,
it was
oh
it was
geez, that
about
was
3 years
crazy.
afterwards when we compared notes and realized, oh my gosh, I'm having these nightmares too. They're horrible. I wake up in a cold sweat thinking I'm back there and blah blah blah. From that point forward, every time we reconnected with somebody who was there, we were like, hey, by the way, do you have nightmares? And every single person
Yeah.
we ever asked was like, yes.
And I
Yeah.
would tell
So
them,
crazy.
and I was always the ringleader trying to get people to write books. I was like, oh no, you should write a book. And I don't know. And how do I do it? I was like, oh, it's easy. It's easy. I'll show you. Claire will help you. Whatever. We'll tell you how to do it.
Yeah.
And
I
so
like
we got about, I would say we got about 6 people that we knew that we were, whether they were going to do it already or not, we really encouraged them to do it. And so there's a lot of ex-Scientology books. There's Amy Scobie, Jeff Hawkins, Jenna Miscavige Hill, Mike Rinder, Nancy Maney, Ron Miscavige, even when the leader, the boss, I call him the Scientology boss baby, David Miscavige, even when his father escaped, he wrote a book, and we encouraged him to write a book. And so
that was a terrible that was heartbreaking. I watched an interview with Ron and him talking about how he got David in because of his asthma and all these really fine intentions, and then David turned around and just treated him like he was nobody. Like it made no difference.
He really did. A lot of people think, well, like, oh, Ron Miscavige got special treatment because he was the father. No, he got treated worse because he was the father. Because Dave not only had to prove, oh, I don't give 2 shits about him, but he doesn't get special treatment. So he got treated. I think, in my eye, he did have a few perks here and there. Like he could go up and have dinner with Dave or, things like that. But for the most of the time that I was there, for the 15 years that I was there and worked near where Ron worked or was over the area that Ron was in, I would say that Dave treated him even worse than most and made a little bit of a show out of it when he did it. Like he would abuse him, and it would be a very loud, open abuse that everyone would see. And Dave would be like, can you believe this guy? He's trying to get away with shit that nobody else would get away. But, he's trying to, get his special treatment. He would make a big production out of it. So it was just like,
and then after all that, Shelley Miscavige assigned me to give him counseling to resolve why he had trouble communicating with David Miscavige, his father. You wonder why.
Unfortunately, I've been in Ron's situation, obviously not in Scientology because I've never been a Scientologist, but in that sort of relationship where you're just getting, it's an awful place to be in. And if how you describe the kind of abuse that does occur amongst family members there, but also amongst peers, it's just miraculous that anybody stays intact. But Erin is covering that one story about that poor real estate woman. I guess she's a public Scientologist who killed herself. Like, I'm not surprised or I won't be surprised if more and more comes out just from hearing this interview here and also all the things that you watch, that there's going to be a huge backlash and people coming forward being like, I am mentally absolutely at rock bottom. And that
is where you have to be to leave, though. Like when I was at the international headquarters, it was sort of like either I have to escape or I got to end it all. Like it's so miserable to live that you'd rather not, or if I could escape. But even if I escape, I have to willing to be homeless because I don't have anybody to go to. I don't have any money. I don't have any education. And they really kind of grind into your brain. If you leave, you will be lucky to even be able to flip hamburgers. Like that's how useless you will be to society. And they really push this home and you really believe it. So if like, oh, do I want to be, so like right now I have a place to sleep, I get fed, but I'm just abused full time. Do I leave and become homeless?
We were together. And we
Yeah,
were together.
and then
Yeah,
also,
yeah, and you had to
Yeah.
yeah.
and you can't leave. You can't, in Scientology, it's almost impossible to conspire to leave with your spouse, because your spouse is going to turn you in.
Yeah.
And then if you,
Because it's a crime to discuss leaving.
yeah,
So if you even have a conversation,
You have
then
to write
it's
that
just the
knowledge
clock
report.
starts
Yeah,
ticking as to
exactly.
when one or the other of you will next be interrogated
and you'll
and
cough.
has to spill the beans.
Yeah.
And again, this is like living in a communist
It is,
country.
because everyone that you live and work with will rat you out
Yeah.
in a second.
It's
They're
like
like,
communist Russia.
Gladly.
it's
Some
like
of them,
the
some of them
Stasi.
take pleasure
Yeah.
in doing so.
So
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. When somebody sees, and a lot of times people are just making accusations just in case they're right. So there's always,
Like-
the shit's always flying. It's just whether or not it sticks or not. So
Yeah.
you can't.
Like after Mark escaped, somebody wrote a report on Mark and I, and we lived in a house where Mark and I had one bedroom, and there were other couples living in the other rooms.
Right.
And this person was like, I knew there was nothing good going on behind that closed door.
Oh my goodness. It's so ridiculous. Like it's so, but so, and just the mere fact that you said there's so many people writing about their experience there and escaping, it shows like how damaging this whole thing. And I'm sure I love to play devil's advocate, because people's beliefs are sacred to them, and I have no right to judge anything, which I've basically been doing this whole conversation, but I've been trying to be very open-minded about it, and just reacting to your experience and what I saw through that interview with Ron, because it was just so heartbreaking to me, because I hold my parents in such high esteem.
Yeah.
So, and my husband's family as well. So, but I'm sure there are people that think that this is a great life, like that they've totally, drank the Kool-Aid, which is sort of an unfortunate expression because that's from another
Yeah.
cult. But and they're like, yeah, this is fabulous. This is a wonderful life, and good for them if they are put on the blinders and they are fulfilled by that life. But just the mere fact that there's so many people being like, I escaped and I have to tell my story because I'm
Yeah.
completely traumatized.
Yeah.
And to warn. And so I wanted to circle back to the fact that you weren't writing this for sensationalism, nothing. It was, you said that your audiences were people who were trying to escape, and hence you went on Coast to Coast, which I'd like you just to
Yes.
touch on. The
Sure.
family members of people who were in Scientology to like counsel them, and I guess the general public also to expose what's going on. And then you guys also have your, like, is an organization, right?
Yes, we have a foundation called the Aftermath Foundation.
That's it. Yeah.
And it was created in response to there was a show that was on A&E. It's on Hulu and Netflix or wherever. It's called Leah Remini, Scientology and the Aftermath. And she basically goes around and interviews all these people that used to be in Scientology, and then what happened when they either left or they got expelled or they got disconnected from their family or whatever their story is. And that show was on for 3 seasons. And during the airing of the show, there was so many people that reached out saying like, what can we do to help? Or, if somebody else escapes, what happens to them? And so the Aftermath Foundation, we essentially help people who want to escape or who have escaped, and they're trying to get their feet back on the ground because they have lost all connections. So if they worked at a Scientology organization, then most likely their family were also Scientologists. And if they leave, they can't talk to those people, and they can't go to those people to help for a place to stay or a car or housing or food or anything. They can't rely on those people. And most Scientologists have nowhere to turn. So that's what we do. We help them get back on their feet, and we can help sort of, if they were a C organization, they need a GED and they need to learn how to drive and they need a cell phone and they need a place to stay and they need to get a job and all these things. Somebody needs to do that with them. And so that's what we do. And when I wrote the book, I kind of felt, even though I had been writing all these things and putting all these things on the internet, I felt an obligation to the families of the people that work there. Like, this is what your son or your daughter, your sister, your mom, or this is what your family member is doing. And this is what they're struggling with. And this is how their life is. And if you can tell them, like, no matter what, you can't attack Scientology in a conversation or a correspondence with them, because all of their mail is opened and read on the way in and on the way out. So you have to just be like, hey, if you ever want to go on vacation, or if you're ever on vacation and you want to stay with us, we're always open to you coming and staying with us, or we would love to see you on your next vacation, or just communicate that they need to know that, because when they leave, they're either, the way they leave will depend on if there's someone for them to go to. And even if there's a chance that there's someone to go to, it's more likely that they will do that, but they don't know that there's somewhere to go or there's someone to help them. So I wrote the book for those, the family members, and then also for the people that are in Scientology, like that I know it's a scam and there's millions and millions of dollars being wasted on harassing ex-members or putting up websites or just wasted in general. And they're using their hard-earned time and wages to give it to them. So there's all these segments. And then for the people that leave, that worked where I work, so they know you can speak out. Scientology will harass you. Of course they will harass you. You won't get to talk to your family. All these things, they're all horrible. But for the greater good, you got to tell your story so that other people don't get bamboozled into this thing and waste, 32 years of their life. So it's sort of like, yeah, I wrote the book. Yeah, we made back what we spent. It's not, where the kids are going to be able to get an education, whatever. But I felt an obligation to do it. The fact that I could do it and then also, be recompensed for it, that's a bonus. But I didn't set out to make money. I set out to tell the story and expose these guys. So exactly. that it's doing that. And I have had many families write to me or call me and say, the best one I think was that a husband found his wife's copy of my book. The whole family was in Scientology. The mom, a dad, a daughter, and a son. They were all involved in Scientology. And the dad had found the wife's copy, a paperback or something, or it was on her Kindle or something. And he confronted her and was like, hey, what the hell? And she said, yeah, I'm reading it. I think we need to leave. And the husband was like, I've been reading it too. I have a copy at work, and then it's like, well, what are we going to do with the kids? And then they go to the kids and the kids are like, oh man, we've been reading the internet, mom and dad. This Scientology is whack. We got to get out. And they had they had 4 members of a family that all didn't want to be in Scientology. And they all were worried that the other one would rat them out or they would lose contact or whatever. And in the end, my book helped that family leave, and they had a party. They went out to eat, hey, let's celebrate. We're not going to be wasting any more time or money on that anymore. And but I was like, that's an amazing, that's to me, if that happened, I'd be like, it was totally worth it. I would put up with all the nonsense all over again.
So, but I think it's important also because you guys were employees essentially, right? You were not private. So the private Scientologists are the ones that pay and they go on with their lives. So the celebrities, the people who get oh my gosh, what's it called?
They do courses, and they study the courses things? Or they do auditing,
right?
Scientology counseling.
Yeah. So they're public, but you guys, you don't pay for your courses, right? I mean, you pay with your labor, but you're not out of pocket. So again, it's not like you're.
But when we escaped,
oh, right. The bill.
If you do escape and you get declared a suppressive person and you're like, no, I messed up. I want to talk to my family. They have these steps. They're called the A to E steps. And the first step is you got to sort out any disagreements and sort out why you left and all that good stuff. And part of that is if you have what's called a freeloader bill. So any courses or even on the job training, anything, interrogations, anything that you got in Scientology that they charge their public members for, you then get a bill for that. So we just left. We were making $46.28 a week for 15 years. We had no savings. And I have got my Social Security statement. There's a few years that are just goose eggs. We just didn't even get paid at all. And they sent us a bill for $158,000
Yeah,
right after we left. Like, if you want to talk to your parents again, the first thing you got to do
settle
is
up.
give us $158,000
Yeah, no,
for
and by the way,
nonsense.
no payment plan. You have to pay that in full and do other steps, and then they'll
Maybe.
consider
Yeah.
maybe letting you talk to your family again.
But but you were like, no, this isn't even a legal binding agreement
No.
contract. I don't have to
Yeah.
pay it. So it's not like, because I really want to impress upon anybody who's watching that this book came from a place of just goodness, right? Like it's,
Yeah.
and you weren't trying to make money from the book to pay off your debt. Like you just washed your hands of it and you walked away.
Yeah.
And
I
so,
didn't, I just didn't want to lose money. I
of
never
course,
thought,
yeah.
thought of there was even a possible scenario that I would make money. I just thought I wouldn't lose, like I could break even. I'd be happy.
Yeah, and I also, that's why I wanted you guys on, because it was such a meaningful and generous act to do this as well, because you paid out of pocket $25,000 approximately to on a hope and a dream that you would
Yeah.
get your money back, and you were very smart about doing that pre-ordering and then doing the radio show where
Yeah. Oh yeah.
the
So
radio, so coast to coast, yeah.
yeah. So when I worked at the property, we did what was called all-nighters, where we would just work through the night, and you'd usually do at least maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 all-nighters a month, and they would usually be on Wednesdays, because their week in Scientology ends on Thursday. So a lot of people, to stay awake and be able to keep doing stuff, you would listen to music or you listen to the radio. The only radio station that would reach out to that property that you could really just get most of the time was an AM radio station in Los Angeles called KFI AM 640. And so I had always told myself, if I did get the book and we did do the book, to release it, I wanted to go on this radio station. So I went on a morning show called John and Ken, and that's like your drive time radio in the morning. And I was on that for maybe, like, let's say a half hour or something like that, talking about the book. And they were really receptive of it. They were like, oh yeah, those guys are nuts over there. They're talking about the book. And I thought, okay, that's cool. But then I went on another program called Coast to Coast AM. And this is a several hour long program that I think it starts around 9 or 10 p.m. and it goes to like 2 or 3 a.m. depending on what time zone you're in. And it's a nationally syndicated program as well. And so I went on that, and we sold, I want to say we sold 1,000 copies just from that one show. We sold 1,000 copies.
Yeah.
But
and to tie that back, Ron Miscavige Sr. listened to that show that Mark did
when he was still at the property. Yes. Yeah. So when he
and another
left,
person did too.
Yeah, we talked to at least 2 people that were in the Sea organization at the international headquarters and heard me talking about the international headquarters. And they were both like, yeah, you weren't exaggerating. It was true. And they were thinking, like, I'm in here and he's out there talking about us. But he got out. And I was like, if even those 2 guys just got out, it would have been worth it, because one of those guys happened to be David Miscavige's father. So I really kind of accomplished. I didn't lose money, and I got to some Scientologists, and I got to some Sea Org members, and I've gotten to tons of people that are not in Scientology, who I guarantee you, if you're not in Scientology and you're not even thinking about Scientology, or if you are thinking about getting to Scientology and you read my book, you will be inoculated and you will not get into Scientology.
But you didn't even,
I was like, I ticked off all the boxes.
Yeah, you didn't even include, you said that you took out, because Claire had read that the first book shouldn't be more than 400 words, right?
Yes.
And you took out all sorts of really quite emotionally impactful parts, which I'm hoping eventually there will be a part 2.
Well, I've been telling
pressure.
those stories on my YouTube channel. So now I've started a YouTube channel just in the past month, and I'm sort of telling all these stories that either didn't make it into the book or they're just such great stories and they're in the book. I'll just tell that one story, but I'm systematically just going through and I'm going to actually in the next month or so, I'm going to start interviewing other people that escaped and also wrote books, and then sort of cherry picking any stories they haven't told. And I'm just going to go through the years and like, okay, 1990, what about this? You know, because every year there was a book's worth of stories every single year. So I could probably write another 15 books if I wanted to, but otherwise I can just, it's a little bit more digestible to do it in a podcast or a YouTube format. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna tell the stories, whether I write a second book. I really want to write a second book to just kind of just go deep on all the stuff, because a lot of people go, you were there for 15 years and it was crazy. And well, I grew up in it. I was in the Sea organization for 15 years, but the 15 years after we left, they did more heinous, dastardly stuff than when we were even there when we worked for them. And that's what I'm kind of releasing on my channel right now. And a really exciting thing happened is that somebody else that escaped that I did end up talking with, they had my dossier. So Scientology has its own spy wing called the Office of Special Affairs. And the Office of Special Affairs used to be called the Guardian's Office. And the Guardian's Office was convicted and committed the largest infiltration into the United States government in its history.
This is also crazy.
More than any other foreign government, more than any other country. Scientology, it's documented. You can go and just, it's called Operation Snow White. And they perpetrated the largest infiltration into the United States government in its history. And the organization that ran that was called the Guardian's Office, and now it's called the Office of Special Affairs. And it's a spy wing of Scientology. Well, someone who escaped got my dossier from the Office of Special Affairs. And so I've got all these files, all the communications going back and forth between OSA and all the way up to our Religious Technology Center, where David Miscavige works. I have all these files going back and forth. It talks about them paying for my garbage. They've got all my phone records. They have people watching us day and night. We're being followed by private investigators. All these things. I had a birthday party. This was a year after we had escaped. I had a birthday party. Maybe 10 or 15 people attended. 6 of them were OSA spies, and they didn't even know that the other were spies. That 6 different people came to a party, and they were all going to report back to OSA, and none of them knew that any of the others were doing that. And I have the file of these are all the people that are going to the party, and them saying, none of them know that they're working for us. They know they're working for us, but not the other 5 people.
And if anyone out there thinks that this is an exaggeration, it's not, because you caught someone, you went to an event and you caught the private investigator sitting outside of that event, recording who was attending the event. There was 2 of them.
One of them I just threw out and I didn't video it. But then after I threw the first guy out, I was like, there was another guy sitting next to him. And I literally said, hey, stop filming me. Get up. We're getting you out of here. It's illegal to film inside of casinos in Las Vegas.
Okay.
Just normally. So the fact that they were recording and that I knew it, they could get in a lot of trouble. So, but then I thought that other guy didn't even move. Like, he didn't even react. The guy that was sitting right next to him, like if somebody is like throwing a fit at the airport and they're like screaming and yelling, you're going to look over and like, or get your phone out or get away or something. You're not just going to sit there and react. Be like, doo-doo-doo. Anyway, so I was thinking about after I kicked the first guy, I was like, the other guy didn't do anything. So I got my camera out and I started recording, and I even went and told the organizer, oh no, this was before. Everybody was filing into this birthday party, and it was, I would say half of the people there, there's maybe 150 people at this party, half were ex-Scientologists or ex-Sea Org members. And so I just assumed, well, OSA is going to be all over this, like, of course. And these people were just oblivious. And so we're all walking into this banquet hall, and I see this guy standing there with his phone, and he's just kind of leaning it on the sofa as people are going in. I'm like, oh, that dude is totally recording us. So then when we get into the party, I told the woman who was organizing, I said, hey, there's at least one or two guys out there videoing everybody. I don't want to cause a stink. It's your party, but if you're okay with it, I'm gonna go light those dudes up. So she was like, oh yeah, absolutely. I don't want them spying on us. I was like, okay, fine. So I went out and it's like, hey buddy, let's go. And I kick him out. And then as I'm coming back, I video the next guy. And the thing that was so ironic is that Claire had bought me as sort of a gag gift, like a stocking stuffer for Christmas. She had bought me this little pen that's a video camera and you can record. And so I go up to the guy, I was like, dude, seriously, I kicked that other guy out and you didn't even do anything. That was a tell. Okay. You need to get up. And he's just like, what? He says like oblivious. He doesn't say one thing the entire time. And I go, the reason I noticed you is because I got the same pen and yours has got a light on it that you didn't even cover up. That's not the smartest private investigator kind of thing to do, but you gots to go.
Yeah. And you caught it. You put it on YouTube. So it's not, these things are actually happening. It's not like an exaggerated scenario.
Yeah, and even all the things that I'm doing on my channel, I'm reading the documents from Scientology. It's not like I'm saying this happened and that happened and I'm just freewheeling. No, I'm reading the document that they're sending saying we got his phone records. They have this thing called special collection. That's code for garbage stealing or garbage buying.
So gross.
And and they have all these things they're trying to set up. And we haven't gotten to this birthday party that's coming up. And probably the next week or two, I'll do this birthday document one where they've got all these people lined up. And it's like, and it's the buildup. It's like a week before my birthday. And they're like, we've got this person and we've got this person. And then a few days later, it's like the birthday party's this weekend. And, it's like, I'm like, oh, we're so excited. And what's even crazier is I have tons of picture from that party and that they're supposed to be like, while I'm out on the barbecue, man, and the chicken wings, someone's going to rummage through the office and go through our files. And
come on.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
That's so
like literally
awful.
At my own, like, okay, I'm throwing a party. I'm going to give you food and beverages and cake and we're going to have fun. And you're coming to spy. What?
It's so, it's like I said, you can't make this stuff up. Like it's
No.
it's so, and if they used all their power for good to clear the planet, if they had just concentrated on that one aspect that they wanted to do, what a wonderful world it would be, because look how much they can get accomplished infiltrating the government.
Oh yeah. It's not like they're working hard at some stuff.
Right? Like they're accomplished in a lot of things, but
my goodness.
They either need an overhaul or a reset or just, I'm not even going to give them the benefit there. But if they had stayed on their true path of benevolence, we would have been a better place perhaps. But I can't even, this has been so enjoyable. So if you had any advice for, and this is, I always ask everybody, because I like to see I like to put you on the spot for anybody who, well, because you just said ask Claire, but okay, so Claire will probably answer. Any advice on self-publishing, on the marketing surrounding it, I don't know, any tips or tricks that you found to be helpful? I mean, you do have a special case scenario. You had the name Scientology behind you, so that kind of put you in a different bracket already. But if someone came and like just said, I had this health adventure or whatever, that like they had some health concern or something and they wanted to write this memoir, what would you say to them? And I want to hear from both of you because you both have experience.
I'll let Claire go then.
Okay. I would say, first of all, just research and know your audience. There are, as Mark commented earlier, there's a lot of people on Earth, and you just find a way to find who your story will benefit, and then target those people, like radio shows, social media, get the word out, but most importantly, do write your story.
Yeah, I would say I think from the people that I've talked to, just writing it is where they like printing it. If you've got Word and you can make a PDF, you're good to go. You have the technology and the tools you need. You just have to write. And when I would do it, I would just go every night, like when I'd get off work, I'd go, and I had a little office behind our house, and like a little garage, converted garage into an office. And I'd go in there and I'd crank out 1 or 2 chapters. And sometimes I'd crank out 3 chapters,
Wow.
but I would just be like, okay, good. I'm just going to write. And yeah, okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. You can go back and go, like, you can crank it out and just, bleh, just dump onto the pages. And then when you've done that, then you can go back. And if you need to like make notes or post-it notes, or kind of like, okay, this was this year, I got these 3 things I want to talk about. And you can kind of just kind of outline what you want to do and just crank it out. And then I had to go through and cut half of that out to make it fit into the, under 400 pages, which in the book that Claire read, she said, oh, it can't be over 400 pages. I was like, I got 800 pages. Like, you got to get it under 400. And it's like, oh, okay. So the book, I think the hardback was 398 pages when it was done. Because I don't even think, is that including the glossary and everything, Claire?
I don't think
I can't
so.
remember,
I'm
but
not sure. I'd have to look.
I think
can
we
grab
made
real
it
quick.
fit under the 400, because it was like, well, does that include the front matter and the back matter and
Yeah.
because it's Scientology, I had to put all these terms in it and that stuff as well. But either way, if you just sit down and start writing it, I think that when you run out of stuff to write, then you can go back through, and going back through, I've thought of other things. I would be like, oh yeah, I remembered this because I was trying to like, where did that girl work? And be like, oh yeah, I remember that girl work. Oh my God, I remember a whole nother story that happened. So then it sort of flushed it out. And, yeah, I would just do it. And even now, even if you just had the PDF and you didn't want to spend a bunch of money, you can do a Kindle, because you can, if you got Word and PDF and maybe like Adobe InDesign or, something like that, you can make a really nice product, and you can do that yourself. You can go on YouTube, and any software that exists, there's a video on YouTube on how to use it, how to write a book with it, or how to do a pamphlet, or how to do whatever you want to do. There's a video of somebody doing it, maybe poorly, maybe okay, but they'll at least give you there's not really an excuse anymore that, oh, I don't know how to do this, I don't know how to do that, because there is literally somebody out there right now who's not a writer, but is a YouTuber, and they're trying to think of anything and everything that could make a good YouTube video. I mean, I was trying to find a manual on a piece of equipment, and there's a guy in Russia going, this is how to use this equipment. And I'm like, oh, there you go. There's a guy right there. He's just telling me what to do. I don't need to read the manual. This guy's going to show me right here. He doesn't have the best English, but I can see from the video what he's doing. So not really an excuse that, oh, I don't know how, or that if you got a story and you want to get it out there, do it. You can put it on Kindle. And if you make a ton of money on Kindle, or you make a little bit of money on Kindle, maybe you could use that money to do the print on demand, or, whatever you want. So you're not going to, if you're doing it to make money, then you better just be amazing. And you better just, whatever you write knocks everyone's socks off. If you've got a cool story to tell and you want to get it out there, you might not make a lot of money. You might make a few $100, you might make a few $1,000, but the story will get out there, and then you will have some legacy or some story that you've gotten, and it's there, and you've left your mark. And even if that, I mean, there are billions of people. The chances that there's a few hundred or a few thousand that might find your story entertaining or useful is pretty high when you think about it that way. And if it really does take and it's successful, then, well, that's even better. If you want to win the lottery, there's the chances of you doing your book are way higher than winning the actual lottery. So I would say do it that way.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful.
Start with write the book.
Yeah. A lot of writing coaches are just like, it's literally butts and chairs. Like, you have to put your butt in the chair and get her done. And then the rest will follow. And so, so you guys are just so inspirational. I'm sorry you had to go through all this, but you came out on the other side. So I don't know, you just seem so down to earth and so successful despite all of this hardship in the beginning, and it's a real statement, or I can't think of the right word right now, that you're still married together, because sometimes like these major life changes can split people up, but it's a testament, that's what I was trying to say, that you're married and you have your kids and you've been able to develop your own business, and both of you have your own businesses, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And that you're giving back to society after, it's wonderful. Yours is a wonderful happy ending, or not that you're ending now, but I mean, happy ending to that chapter of your life. I'm not
Yes.
suggesting you're done for.
We've had so much nonsense. That's what people say are, do you have any allergies? I say, yeah, I'm allergic to nonsense. We've had so much nonsense that it's sort of like, let's not try to have any more of that. Let's just do this. And it does help when we do hear success stories, or we are able to help somebody, or we are able to reconnect a family. And these things are worthwhile, I think, to do. So we're just happy to help and get the word out. And if people find that inspiring or they find that entertaining, then awesome. Then that's a bonus.
One last comment from me. People have often asked, like, wow, after everything you guys went through, how are you so normal? And my response is always, are you kidding? The only thing I ever wanted was a normal life. That's all I ever wanted. So it's not hard to live the life that I only ever dreamed of.
Yeah. Well, that's a beautiful thing to say. And if people want to help or donate, they can go to the Aftermath. What is I'm going to put it down below, but
Yep, it's the aftermathfoundation.org is the foundation website.
Yeah.
And also, if they want a book, they can go to blownforgood.com, or the books that we sell on my website, blownforgood.com, both Claire and I sign. So any hardback or paperback that we sell through Blown for Good is signed by us. And then you can go to Amazon, get it on Audible or Kindle or paperback or hardback from Amazon. But those aren't signed, of course.
Last but not least, we have the spshop.com, where special people shop, where you can get Mike Rinder bobbleheads, SP bracelets, and all the proceeds from those sales go to the Aftermath Foundation.
And also there's a way to donate when you, I don't know if it's in Canada, but in the States, through Amazon, through your purchases. What is that?
Amazon's actually canceling that in the next week or two. Yeah.
Come on.
So we stopped telling people to go to that, but yeah, they did have a program, but it's being replaced by where they just donate to major charities. They just pick you. They don't allow you to pick. I think that's how they're changing it. But we're going to have everything that is purchased at the spshop.com, just little trinkets and stuff, that goes to support the foundation, or people can just donate directly to the foundation if they're heart set on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are all our links and our the things that we're supporting and pushing.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for taking your time, because I know you guys have really active lives and you've got kids and you've got, work, and you do your YouTube channel, and thank you. I really appreciate it. Stay on after we finish our goodbyes, because I just have a question. So which nobody will know what I'm asking. No, I'll probably edit that part out. So, but thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope that your lives can continue to be normal and quiet and helpful and in service of those who are trying to escape, because I can't think of a more admirable way to spend your time in service, right? In good service, not in like Scientology service. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us, and thanks for helping us get the word out.
Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you so
you're welcome, and I'm so thrilled that we could make this happen. Hi again. So I forgot to mention that you have a goal for your YouTube channel. So let's hear it.
Yeah. So my YouTube channel is called Blown for Good, Exposing Scientology since 2006. And we're trying to get 80,000 subscribers by March 13th, because in Scientology, they have this game they play every year. It's called the birthday game. It's for L. Ron Hubbard's birthday. His birthday was on March 13th. So we're trying to get Scientology has a YouTube channel, and their YouTube channel has 80,000 subscribers. So we're trying to get 80,000 subscribers by March 13th, so we can have more subscribers than them. So if you can go to Blown for Good on YouTube and subscribe, that would be amazing. And there's if you're interested in this subject, or you want to know about Scientology and what goes on in Scientology, we have tons of videos, like behind the scenes stuff and these spy files that I've been reading, and all these different things that you can find out about on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's very informative, entertaining, especially when you have the Mondays with Mark and
Yes.
Mike.
Yes. So we
Very
have
entertaining.
three.
Yeah.
There's three former Sea Org, Scientology Sea Org members, Mike Rinder, Aaron Smith Levin, and myself. And every Monday we do a series where we basically just talk about stuff that went on at the headquarters, and we answer people's questions about Scientology and about what goes on. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah, no, I love that you are so adept at balancing such a serious topic, educating, but also entertaining. Like, you guys are super entertaining.
You have to, because it's kind of a depressing situation. So you can't, it can't just all be the drama and the depressing part. You gotta make light of some things so that people can continue to listen, because otherwise you just be like, yeah, no, these guys are total downers. They're talking about this stuff that's just horrible. I don't want to have anything
You have
to
to
do with
add in the comic relief part.
Yes.
In all seriousness, to make it work. Otherwise, yeah, you're gonna lose interest just because it's so damn depressing.
Yeah. Again, thank you for this.
Absolutely.